Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, the International Day Against Victim Blaming. Victim blaming stems from rape culture, where experiences of gender-based violence and sexual violence are normalized by media, popular culture, and the institutions and systems that shape our society. Victim blaming is not unique to gender-based violence. We see it in the way people who live in poverty are framed as lazy, in the way people who use substances are viewed as having made bad choices, and in the way racialized communities are held accountable for the racism they experience when they are told how they should behave or conduct themselves in order to be treated fairly. Victim blaming not only harms survivors, but benefits the interests of the status quo, who use it to deny the existence of injustice and the urgent need for change. Being an ally includes recognizing and pushing back against the unequal dynamics of power and injustice embedded in our histories, institutions, and structures of society. Standing against victim blaming is standing against oppression and pushing for systemic change. Today, we at Embrave commemorate this day with the official launch of the What Does It Take to Be a GBV Ally? Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to creating brave spaces with you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Embrave's Choose the Challenge Violence. What does it take to be a GBV ally? My name is Jeff Perera, and I'm very excited to welcome you here today. Before we begin, I would like to introduce Julie Schultz, Development Manager at Embrave, to deliver a land acknowledgement.
We would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather, and which the Region of Peel operates, is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples inhabited and cared for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples. The land that is home to the Métis, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, we give our respect to its first inhabitants. We also recognize a responsibility to acknowledge the history and ongoing legacy of colonialism and our complicity in upholding its structure and systems. Indigenous peoples continue to struggle to protect their lands and waters from settler colonialism and capitalism, and face disproportionate marginalization, impoverishment, racism, and an epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Despite these and countless more injustices, the Indigenous peoples in our region continue to thrive and build community on these lands today. We recognize that land acknowledgements represents just a small step towards rebuilding trust with the peoples of these host nations. As uninvited guests on their land, we are committed to building positive relationships based on respect, humility, and consent. We will strive to be true allies as we continue to develop these relationships, work to increase and enhance our supports and programming for Indigenous community members, and bring to light the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada.
Today is the International Day Against Victim Blaming. Half of all women in Canada have experienced one incident of physical or sexual violence since the age of 16. Just 4 months into the COVID-19 pandemic, murders of Black and Latinx trans women and gender-diverse people surpassed annual totals in the years before. Over 500 years of colonial genocide and settler violence has created the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women who are denied justice by a system that doesn't value their lives. It is beyond doubt that we have had, and have always had, a crisis of men who are violent, who are empowered by a system of patriarchy that installs vast divides of power between genders. Patriarchy reinforces the social construction of gender, which leads to male domination and gendered oppression. Gender-based violence is not a problem of some bad men, but rather a problem of patriarchal masculinity that controls and shapes all spheres of life. Today and every day, we call on all men to reject and reflect on the relationship between our ideas of masculinity and patriarchy. This creates an opportunity to redefine their roles in society, to push back against violent power structures, and to take on responsibility for and accountability to help end hurt and harm caused in this crisis and stand up against gender-based violence. Ownership for the cause of any form of gender-based violence should never be placed on a survivor of such hurt and harm. And this is just one of many issues that men who wish to support survivors can help address. To mark the International Day Against Victim Blaming, Embrave Agency to End Violence is launching the second campaign in their Unstoried series of films, What Does It Take to Be a GBV Ally? So what does it take to be an ally in the work to end gender-based violence? Allyship is not an identity, it's a practice of working in solidarity with marginalized groups to dismantle the systems that challenge that group's basic rights and ability to thrive in our society. In the work to end gender-based violence, these groups include women, two-spirit, genderqueer, trans, and non-binary communities. Allyship is an ongoing process of forging relationships based on trust and accountability. Allyship is listening to survivors whose experiences are routinely doubted, discredited, and dismissed by systems that treat their pain as normal. An ally is committed to unlearning harmful and restrictive ideas of manhood. They recognize their inherent privilege and leverage it to challenge and reconstruct unjust power relations. We ask popular influencers to share what makes them allies in the work to end gender-based violence. So, what does it take to be a GBV ally? Take one. It takes listening.
Hi.
One or two.
Abojo, anin, bitko indishnikas, kwabdawag donji, nindonean shnabe. Hi, my name is Ellyn Jade, and I'm from White Sand First Nation in Northern Ontario. Many of us wake up, and when we walk out that door, there's a good chance, with the statistics being as they are, as for First Nations women, that I have a very high probability of not reaching, elder status or not being able to fulfill my dreams. We have children that are missing. They're taken. You can't explain loss. And that kind of loss is a special kind of loss because you don't know. At least, somebody passes away and you're able to grieve with them. That creates an emotional and a spiritual scar in a community that just tears it apart. The worst thing you could ever do is not know. And so male allyship is a big factor of that because our structures in our communities were so broken. Traditionally, our communities, it was the children in the center, then you had the elders, then the women, and then the men. So when colonization happened, it was then changed into a hierarchy and a patriarchy. Like there's a lot in our society today that deems what a man is, what a man does, what his role is. So listening and opening your heart is the first step you can take, and recognizing that, we're all related, so it'd be nice if we could all act like it.
Thankful for those moving and important words from Ellyn Jade in this first video we're seeing in a series for Embrave's What Does It Take to Be a GBV Ally campaign. Ellyn Jade spoke of the history and realities of First Nation women, taking the time and offering to share what is most personal and what impacts not only her, but also so many across the land. Take one. It takes listening. It is important for us to listen and to learn from women, two-spirit, trans, and gender non-binary folks about their experiences. Being able not just listen, but listen with our hearts and our minds, and reflecting and acknowledging what we have heard through our bodies and what we convey through body language is key. How did our words make us feel? What did you feel? When we are able to actively listen, it also means starting with compassion, an awareness of the realities Ellyn spoke of. Then moving into empathy, imagining what Ellyn described and how it impacts not just her, but generations before and after her. And then we can explore how we can take action and act, not to try and take over and try to fix or solve things according to how we see it fit, but to stand in solidarity and work together for change. As Ellyn said, when we as men open our hearts, we can learn what we can do about it. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 2. It takes respect.
102, Alpha Bravo.
Hi, my name is Sean Leon. I am a rapper, director, producer from Toronto. When it comes to consent, I believe it's important to ask questions and to not be embarrassed to ask and to live with the response, regardless if it's the response that you were hoping for. What might have been okay on a Monday might not be okay on a Tuesday. What was okay that afternoon might not be okay that evening. Meaning, it's important to follow up, and it's important to respect the boundaries that are being set, no matter who you are. We're all entitled to that. I would love to live in a world in which that was a guarantee. And, you know, that's not only as a consequence of having a daughter, but that's just being a human being. I feel so tethered to the world now more than ever. As an artist, fortunately, for a very long time, I was able to kind of create my own universe and live within that. But this year especially has humbled me and reminded me of how connected we all are. This war on women is going to make it impossible for the earth to heal. You know, one thing that I will say that was a blessing that I received after my daughter was born was I was taught the importance of softness. And I was able to remove the negative connotation I had surrounding that word. It is actually a superpower. There are times in the past where I was hard because of my reality. I was hard because of what I was taught. I was hard to protect myself, and that energy ended up hindering me in other spaces. Surround yourself with people that love you and show the world who you really are, not the version of you you feel you need to be to protect yourself.
That was Sean sharing some honest words with us, and I respect him for speaking on the topic of respect from the heart. Take 2. It takes respect. Practice enthusiastic consent. We can learn to ask questions, listen, and show respect. Talk to the young people in your life about respect, boundaries, and consent. He talked to us about practicing enthusiastic consent. He talked about respecting women and respecting their boundaries. That means respecting when consent is offered, when it is not offered, or when it is taken back, and learning to continuously live with the response, as Sean put it. Sean also spoke to the immense value of gender diversity and how our identities cannot be rigidly defined by binary notions of hardness and softness, strength and weakness. Our experiences and feelings are complex and dynamic. We are made up of multitudes, and we must find and emphasize the harmony between them and redefine masculinity in this way. In talking about boundaries around one another, he also highlighted the importance of mindfulness and how you can show up in the world. That means owning the impact that we have and the impact we can have on others. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 3. It takes self-reflection.
I'm on 6, Marco.
Hello, I'm Ravyn Wngz. I am a trans, two-spirit, African Indigenous human being, burlesque performer, storyteller, and I'm a part of Black Lives Matter steering committee. A simple way that men can show up for me is by investing in themselves. I think men can embrace vulnerability as a strength. Allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to feel just makes you human. You've been asked to let go of the things that you thought you had to do to get a date, to get respect. And everybody wants to feel important, everyone wants to feel validated, and so these things make sense, but often they are self-harming. But if I didn't love myself, then standing here as a dark-skinned Black trans woman at 36 wouldn't actually be possible. I'm an elder at 36 as a trans woman in the country of Canada and Takaranto specifically. Women like me don't make it past 29. Allow people to just be themselves. Everybody in the world exists, just allow them to exist without having to prove who you are against a person who's different than you.
Ravyn offered us a powerful call to action in the practice of allyship to help end gender-based violence, as well as some maps to help guide in a good direction. Ravyn called on us as men to invest in ourselves as part of our striving to be an ally. Self-care is a big part of our accountability, and it helps to build and repair our collective sense of community. Part of the ongoing work of learning and unlearning harmful traditions and rituals of manhood is letting go of that which never served us and caused hurt and harm of others. Take 3. It takes self-reflection. Reflect on your own attitudes and actions. Do they reinforce harmful behaviors and beliefs or support positive change? When we allow ourselves a whole spectrum of what it means to be a human being, including an ongoing personal development of a wide-ranging emotional literacy, which includes challenging the idea that to be a man you have to be hard, not show feelings of care and compassion, we can then restore our own humanity and then build a bridge to connect with other people and safeguard their rights and autonomy. Practice vulnerability in your interactions with others to open up space for personal growth. When we allow ourselves to be a whole, fully realized version of ourselves, it helps to allow everyone to exist. That includes folks like Ravyn, who, as she said, is an elder because she made it past 29. Sit with that. Suppressing the humanity within ourselves and in turn destroying the humanity and the very existence of women and gender-diverse people is not the path to manhood. We must challenge that notion every day. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 4. It takes holding others accountable.
Just my name or like a full-on? My name is Callen Schaub, and I'm an abstract artist. I would describe allyship as an outward expression of your solidarity, not only expressing it, but also living it on a day-to-day basis. It's really a lifelong journey of learning and listening and participating. There's so many voices, and it's so important to give platform and give attention to all of those voices. The youth are, super important, and the way that we behave now and the way that we teach and the way that we are will inform future generations. Men can be soft, men can be emotional, men can be empowering, men can be empathetic, men can show weakness, and I believe that that's also a show of strength, and we need to redefine what it is to be a man. Yeah.
That was Callen sharing his thoughts on the journey of allyship. I personally believe that ally is an identification that others call you or how others describe you based on your behavior, actions, and impact, how you show up in your own life and in the lives of others. Allyship is not a noun, but a verb. It implies shared stakes and a shared vision of collapsing and rebuilding a new status quo. It's about ongoing and dynamic learning, unlearning, and direct action to support, to heal, to validate, to listen, and to empower. It's a continuous effort to strive to be an ally, always striving, never arriving. Like Callen said, it's an ongoing, lifelong journey of learning, listening, and participating. Being mindful of how the way we impact others, how our impact leaves others, the way that we are, as Callen said, will inform future generations as well as today's generations. Take 4, it takes holding others accountable. We need more allies who have the courage to speak out about violence against women, two-spirit, genderqueer, trans, and non-binary people facing violence. This means being accountable and inviting others into accountability. When we are consistently doing the inner self-work on how we carry ourselves every day, we model accountability to other men we interact with. We can be models of possibility, examples of what it can look like, living examples of allyship in practice. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 5. It takes calling out misogyny.
Alpha Bravo 2.
My name is Emmanuel Jal. I'm a recording artist. What I wanted to share is, when you go through so much suffering, when the past, the present, and the future collide negatively at one moment, you lose hope. And there's a point in my life where that happened when I was a child soldier, and there was so much we were going through at that time. Soldiers were shooting themselves because they couldn't handle the starvation and the dehydration. I was drinking my own urine because there was no water to drink. We wipe our hand on the grass and the dew and lick it several times. My left foot was cut and it was paining and I couldn't move on in the journey. So there was a young man who, when I looked behind, he took his gun, cocked it, and fired a bullet in his head. And because when I was walking in that journey, I could not see my future clearly. So my future became blank. My present was stressful and was not manageable, and my past was overwhelming. So I took my gun and I closed my eye, I cocked it with my right leg and fired the bullet. The bullet failed. So now the bullet did not come out. Something came into my mind at that moment which told me I'm here for a reason. And I began to recite that in my head, that I believe I've survived for a reason. And for that reason, I'm gonna stay alive. And that became my mantra through every challenge that I went through, that I am here for a reason, and I'm gonna be a part of a solution. For anything we want to bring in this world, the power of belief that you're here for a reason. So men can be anything they want to. So it's up to them to choose what they want to give to the world and live it beautifully than they found it.
Emmanuel offered us insight based on his personal experiences, having been a child soldier, and making a decision to tell his story in order to help move us towards change and be part of a solution. We can make the decision to own the impact we have, as well as decide to be a helper, working to help end forms of violence, including supporting Embrave to end gender-based violence. One way we can personally work towards change is recognize the impact of our words. Emmanuel talked about choosing what we as men want to give to the world, and I think embracing the impact our words have is a good start. Actions do indeed speak louder than words, but it starts with our words. Our words help shape the world we live in as they lead to action or inaction. Words can become weaponized and destructive, or become bricks that lay the foundation for building change. Take 5, it takes calling out misogyny. Speak out against sexist comments, demeaning language, homophobia, transphobia, and misogyny. Archbishop Desmond Tutu once said that language does not just describe reality, language creates the reality it describes. Restoring our collective humanity means being mindful of the words we use and how they can destroy or they can help shape. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 6. It takes starting a conversation.
102, take 10.
Hi, my name is Jeff Perera, and since 2008 I've been talking to men and young men about ideas of being a manhood, and I started a site called Higher Learning to explore healthy versus harmful ways to be a man. And in my personal life, I'm striving to be an ally. This quote that I love is, "Compassion without action is just observation." And so for me, I think to move from compassion, understanding these things, understanding the realities of what women are going through when we talk about gender-based violence and how it impacts trans folks, non-binary folks. It's also thinking about how we go from compassion to action. And for me, the middle step is empathy. So the way I describe that is, I see you, I feel you, I got you. I see you as the compassion piece. I understand the reality, the statistics, I'm hearing the stories, but empathy is I feel you. So it's to understand what that feels like, to go to work, to take transit, to use that bathroom. So the empathy piece is that bridge to what we can do, the action piece. And I think for men, it's important for us to try to strive to be the lesson in action in everything we do, sharing our learning, our growth, and how we can support and help nurture a world without violence, and supporting survivors and supporting people who love them. Men can be responsible, men can be accountable, and men can be nurturing. I'm thankful that I got to share some words also in a video for Embrave's What Does It Take to Be a GBV Ally campaign. I'm thankful to have been able to support spaces like Embrave, and that I've been able to help nurture conversations for many years now around ways we as men can help end gender-based violence, as someone striving to be an ally and help inspire others to be as well. You don't have to make this your life's work, but there are many ways to work towards change throughout your life. Take 6, it takes starting a conversation. Engage in dialogue around healthy and harmful ideas of manhood and masculinity. It's not always easy to talk about these issues, but we need to show up in our own way for these conversations. You're not alone, and when you do it, you help create a meeting point between 2 or more people, building a bridge of understanding across our different lived experiences and worldviews. We can create an energy or reputation around us that offers others experiencing all forms of violence or harm a chance to be heard and to be supported. What does it take to be a GBV ally? It takes 7. It takes offering support.
Alpha Bravo.
Hi, my name is Karen. I am a mom of 3. I'm also a very proud Kenyan Canadian, and I'm an advocate and educator for conscious equality. If there's messages that I want to share on this topic, it's to understand that 2 out of 3 women in your life, in your circle, are going to experience physical violence or sexual violence in their lifetime, maybe even both. And 1 out of every 3 women who experience that violence, if not 2, will be from people that they know, people that they trust, people that you have in your home and in your community. Consent is not a nice thing to do. It's not something you do if all the stars align and you suddenly feel like perhaps I can ask because I'm likely to get the right answer. The truth is that Canadian women every day step out of their homes, walk the streets, take public transit, go to work, and come home with another story about how somebody tried to take advantage of them. When a survivor comes forward and says something happened, we need to listen. And when I say we, I am talking to women too. We as mothers, we as sisters, we challenge each other. We don't give women the space they need to really tell their truth. And so I think it's work for both men and women to make sure that when a survivor comes forward, we support them. And we support them in the way that they need, not the way that we think they need. Men can be part of the problem. Men can also be the solution. Everything that I've done since the day I was 13 was based on the belief that not all men are bad. Not all men are out there to hurt us. There are good men out there. I believe in that, and I ask you to walk with me and be a partner with all of us.
Powerful words from Karen. She started with telling us a few statistics around violence against women. It is important to realize that behind every statistic is a story, and behind every story is a person. It takes 7. It takes offering support. If someone in your life shares their story of violence with you, believe them. Ask them what they need from you in terms of support. Listening is so key. It is the starting place for offering support. Karen's words are for people of all genders around how we can offer support. Support the way someone needs to be supported, the way they want to be supported. Sometimes it's with good intention that we offer to fix things, but we might decide that we already know what to do or what's needed, so we will try to fix. I think someone practicing allyship, striving to be an ally, can go from trying to be a fixer to partnering in the struggle to shift the behaviors that will create better outcomes for us all. By doing this, we offer support that is needed and helpful. We can go from I got this to I got you. Again, when we move from compassion and awareness into empathy, we can then move to take action. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 8. It takes action.
102, take 11.
My name is Sharon Floyd, and I'm the Executive Director at Embrave. I want to say that we all have a role to play in ending gender-based violence. There is no action that you can take that would be too small to make a difference. If you are experiencing gender-based violence, reach out to us at Embrave. You are not alone. You can call us at 905-403-0864, and someone on that other end of the line will be there to listen to you, to hear you, and support you. If you know someone who's experiencing gender-based violence, let them know that Embrave is out there. Let them know that you will support them through their journey, and they have a right to feel safe and respected.
That was Sharon Floyd, Executive Director of Embrave. Like Sharon said, we all have a role we can offer and contribute, and no action with a good, helpful impact is too small. You may not know what to say or do in the moment, but you can always connect a survivor with someone who does. Like Sharon and her amazing team at Embrave do every day, in your own unique way, you too can find a way to take action. Take 8. It takes action. Lead by example. You can start by donating to Embrave's Brave Space Fund to support anti-violence public education programming in our communities. We can support survivors. We can support Embrave to continue the work which is needed now more than ever. They have committed to their critical work. We can choose to challenge violence and commit to helping work towards supporting those escaping violence and work towards communities free of violence. What does it take to be a GBV ally? Take 9. It takes commitment.
Gender-based violence, sexual violence is a real thing, and we need to pull the silence and the covers around it off.
I would describe allyship as an outward expression of your solidarity.
When we really start to examine what allyship is, you already see that you play so many roles in it on a daily basis.
We all have a role to play in ending gender-based violence. There is no action that you can take that would be too small to make a difference.
It's really a lifelong journey of learning and listening and participating.
We live in a society that is so full of contradiction that it sets up not only women and girls for failure, but it sets up our men and boys for failure too.
We need to be in a society that promotes and practices equality.
Men can show weakness, and I believe that that's also a show of strength.
Admit that you're in pain. Admit that you're hurt that day. That's the first step. And show the world who you really are, not the version of you feel you need to be to protect yourself.
Self-reflect, to have conversations with the people in your life and allow them to be honest with you about the ways that you impact them.
We need to redefine what it is to be a man.
I don't think that you can love someone unless you are actively loving yourself.
It goes so much deeper. And like I said, it's examining the masculine and feminine in all of us and finding these places where we can get back to, our original instructions and how we were supposed to be with one another.
Men can be full.
Men can be sensitive.
So men can be purposeful.
Men can be colorful.
Men can be soft.
Men can be vulnerable.
Men can be empathetic.
Men can be humble.
Men can be part of the solution, and that's why I'm calling on you to be a partner for us.
Take 9. It takes commitment. Commit to being part of the movement to end gender-based violence. As we near the end of today's session, I want to leave you with something to think about. The work to end gender-based violence may seem daunting, but if you take anything away from today, let it be that each of us has the power to affect change in our own lives. We all have the power to make a difference. We cannot avoid the injustices that we encounter on a daily basis indefinitely. We must find our voices and engage in the kind of meaningful dialogue that will inspire action and incite change. What Does It Take to Be a GBV Ally campaign is a year-long public education campaign, and we invite you to be a part of this very important work in our community. Join Embrave and the movement to end gender-based violence in Peel and beyond. Whether you're a teacher, corporate professional, small business owner, or a community member, supporting the campaign is easy. You can join the conversation by sharing campaign posts. Simply reshare our campaign posts or download the campaign toolkit available on embrave.ca to share campaign videos, graphics, and posts on your social media pages. The What Does It Take to Be a GBV Ally campaign is a free internal-external campaign you can use to educate your organization and its followers about allyship and the work to end gender-based violence. It's also a chance for you to promote your organization's existing diversity, inclusion, anti-violence, and harassment policies. You can also support the work to end gender-based violence by donating to Embrave's Brave Spaces Fund for Anti-Violence Public Education. All campaign proceeds will support Embrave's anti-violence public education programming in our community. Public education programming is a critical strategy in the work to end gender-based violence, and unfortunately is not currently funded. With our public education program, we will ensure that the community members have access to critical information and resources, including how to recognize violence, who it affects, and how to access life-saving support. That brings today's session to a close. Thank you for spending time this afternoon with us today, and for supporting this very important work. We also want to extend our most sincere thanks to Fela Productions, Director Kimberly Vietch, and all of the amazing vendors who stepped up to make this campaign possible. Thank you to our incredible allies for lending your voices to this project. Ellyn Jade, Sean Leon, Ravyn Wngz, Callen Schaub, Emmanuel Jal, and Karen Craggs-Milne. Thank you for being a part of the movement to end gender-based violence in our communities.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to everyone who contributed and participated in this important project. On behalf of our entire team at Embrave Agency to End Violence, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Last but not least, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of our community partners, donors, funders, and supporters for your continuous and ongoing commitment to ensuring we at Embrave have the resources we need to continue to do the important work we do in our community. Now for the important question: what action will you take to end gender-based violence in your community? Stay safe and be well.
You can take action in the work to end gender-based violence in our community by donating to Embrave's Brave Spaces Fund for Anti-Violence Public Education. Public education programming is an indispensable strategy in the work to end gender-based violence, and it's not currently funded. The Brave Spaces Fund will enable Embrave to deliver anti-violence public education today to help create a safer future for tomorrow. Donate today for your chance to win big. For every $20 you donate between now and May 3rd, you will receive one entry in a raffle for 2 round-trip tickets to anywhere WestJet flies. Plus, one lucky runner-up will win a KitchenAid stand mixer. To make a difference in the work to end violence in our community, and for your chance to win, donate to Embrave's Brave Spaces Fund today. To donate, visit embrave.ca and click the Donate button. Be sure to select Brave Spaces Fund from the drop-down Funds menu when making your donation. Those who have already donated via Eventbrite will be entered in the draw automatically. Thanks so much for your support, and good luck.